Hey there, welcome to GemiiToys. Here we are once again, this time with another comparison video. Been delaying on this one, but here we are, comparing Back to the Future Part 1 Marty McFly, recently released by Hot Toys, and the older Back to the Future Part 2. So taking a look first here at the most recent Back to the Future figure by Hot Toys, this Part 1 Marty McFly. We're gonna be comparing as usual, like doing here, all the accessories. Kind of showing you here is an introduction, but we're gonna get real nice in depth and in detail. Of course, comparing the bases, not a whole lot to compare. We have this Einstein for the first time with a Back to the Future figure. And as mentioned, this recently released Marty that I personally, I want to say, got at Toy Sapiens about a month ago. And this base this is not my old Marty McFly's base, but one that I purchased. This is my old one here. This is the digital version guest that we're going to be taking a look at. I do have quite a bit of pictures and footage of my old Back to the Future Part 1 Marty McFly, so that will be included in this comparison. And of course, the main contender is this guy here. But as mentioned, that base, I got it because the Part 2 Back to the Future base, you can kind of see it there, but yeah, it's very big, so I needed a smaller base, so I purchased that one right after I picked up this Part 2 Marty. So yeah, as mentioned, taking a look at comparing all the accessories, the figures, the bases. Again, this is the long introduction with that Pepsi bottle, the almanac. I love that accessory. I'm just gonna say that just to begin with, or to start with. And then of course, comparing the hands. As well as, this is the special edition Part 2 Marty McFly. It came with this gun for that arcade game and the 2 extra hands to hold it. So you can kind of see there on the box it says special edition. So let's take a look at these two guys and compare them. But first, remember to subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on any future content coming up on the channel. So first, we're going to take a look at the boxes, starting with this Part 1 recently released. I'm not going to say that anymore, just Part 1 and Part 2 at this point. But yeah, nice box. I like the image, very nostalgic. This is nice. I love the Back to the Future DeLorean, of course, so it's nice to see an image of that on the Part 2 older version. But yeah, the image on the Part 1 definitely sticks out a little bit more. Taking a look at the sides here, not a whole lot on Part 2 to see, but on Part 1 we do have that Back to the Future logo with the DeLorean. On the bottoms, we have this new style logo on the Part 1, Part 2 old style logo. Not bad, but there's just more going on this newer release, Part 1. As you can see, wrapping around the boxes, that's what you would see. The backs, again, very similar situation. We do have this image here of Doc Brown and Marty, just when the DeLorean does with Einstein, takes his first trip. And removing the covers, there's not a whole lot to see, but just to show you guys, again, we're gonna go on real depth here, so hope you guys enjoy taking a real close look here. And then these I want to call inserts, removing those are nice on both. I do like the Part 1 a little better, but this is how the figures would come to you in the box. So yeah, it's a very similar shoebox style box, but I do like the images better in the part 1. So 1 point goes to the part 1 Marty Mcfly. Now, speaking of part 1, this is some old footage. This is nostalgia right here of the old original release. As you can see here, my box had some serious sun fade on the side there. That is nothing but that. This was like my 3rd or 4th figure I ever got of Hot Toys, so I was okay getting a used one, saving the money. I mean, I'm still okay with that, but especially then I didn't mind missing something or some defects just to save some cash. There you can see the accessories, just kind of showing you that. We're going to take a little more look at our guest, digital guest, my old figure. It's very nostalgic, but here, this is how, as mentioned before, both figures would come to you, removing that top tray or cover plastic, and this is how both look. Nice presentation for both. And next we're going to be taking a look at the accessories. So let's start with the part 1. We do get a variety of hands. As you can see, the paint application, well, you're about to see, I want to say. You get these 6 extra hands, plus the 2 that the figure comes with, and you get, of course, those wrist pegs and some extra buttons in case they fall off, those shiny buttons. But here I'm kind of zooming in so you can see the detail of the paint application. Is it lacks on the older part 2. It's there, but they're kind of more tan and not as realistic looking. So definitely Hot Toys has improved their paint application on the head sculpts and hands, of course. And there's the wrist pegs, and you get, as mentioned before, these 2 extra hands with this revolver. I think the game is called Wild Gunman. Yeah, my mind doesn't fail me, I think. But I never saw the point of that, because you need the arcade machine, otherwise what's the point? So I never used that. It's a special edition thing, but for me it did nothing. And here we have the watch, as well as the portable cassette player or Walkman with the headphones. This camera, really nice accessory. Really like this camera. This is a must for my display, as well as, of course, the headphones and Walkman. He's got it in his pocket. And this skateboard is really cool too. It's missing some logos due to not having the right to show them, copyright. We were taking a look at that clock tower handout, and then the newspaper comes with the part 2. And when it comes to comparing the hoverboard versus the skateboard, we're going to get into it a little bit more, but yes, I do prefer the hoverboard, of course. Comes with this hat and this extra hair piece, which is attached with a magnet. We'll get into that later as well. And the same watch, of course. And this Pepsi from the future, 2015, not the future anymore, but you know, without the logo. And here we have the almanac, as mentioned, with the bag. No receipt though, but I like that almanac very much. And speaking of accessories I do like this Einstein. It could have been better, yes. I mentioned on my review the sculpting could have been more textured, but I'm displaying that Einstein for sure. And this backpack is real nice, you know, you could put the camera in there. This, I never really saw the point of it. It's cool. This is a cool piece. His shoes, his Nikes from the future go in there. I think that's where they came in, or is it the jacket? Man, it's kind of failing me there. But I just put the Pepsi bottle in there. But here we're taking a closer look at the similar accessories, just kind of really getting in depth. And as you can see, the watches are the same. It's a very plain piece of plastic calculator watch from back in the day, 1985. I guess those were popular, maybe even in the 90s when I was a kid. I kind of remember those. And then the skateboard is mentioned. No logos, but it's a nice skateboard. The wheels look sweet with the weathering. The hoverboard looks even better, I gotta say. And the almanac. And this bag here. The newspaper just showing a little more. Pretty much legible text, as you can see. Yeah, as well as the almanac. It's the same page, just multiple copies, but I really like that. Almanac symbolizes part 2 to me, so I really like that accessory. And you can, on the part 1 backpack, you can unzip it. This one, part 2, you can open it. I just placed the Pepsi bottle because, quite frankly, I don't remember. I think the Nikes went in there. I think that's what it said, right? Footwear? Yeah, I'm not paying attention. Can't remember everything. But here's this hairpiece with the hat or cap, baseball cap from the future, baseball hat. That's a cool accessory, that hat. And yeah, even a little bit more in depth here, comparing skateboard versus hoverboard. And yeah, I already spoiled it before. This has got a magnet, and you know, this is more iconic to me. The hoverboard, either though it's pink, and pink is not my favorite color, I've come quite used to it, as most of you have. This is a real iconic piece. You can see here it's got a magnet. Not really showing it so well, but both have a magnet, so it will attach, and you can kind of put the Nike tennis shoe in there and shove it in that one area. It looks cool. So yeah, I mean, this is a tough one. I love both. I love both pieces, accessories, but I'm gonna give this to part 1. I do like the accessories better. I do like them slightly better. The Einstein and the camera, it's just, yeah. So bases. This is the recent part 1. This is the old part 1. As you can see, if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know the difference. But just to show you here, this one says 2021. And this one here says 2015, when that original first Marty Mcfly, our digital guest, which we'll be seeing a little more of, was released. And both came with this type of waist grabber. I personally prefer crotch grabbers, so that's why I switched it, but both came the same, just like that. I'm gonna actually just use my old base for my new figure. And speaking of waist grabbers, these that always damage figures, I don't like to use them. That's why I got that other base for my part 2. Yeah. This base it's nice, and it gets the job done when displaying Marty on the hoverboard, but yeah, just unnecessary, takes too much space. Yeah, I'll show it a little bit later, but it's just not my thing, something that takes that much space. So because it's a better base, I'm gonna give it to part 2. However, I'm not a big fan of it. But yeah, part 2 has the better base because it's the dynamic for flight bases, or base. So taking a look here at the figures side by side, starting with part 1, nice head sculpt. Looks like Michael J. Fox, pretty good, but not quite as good as here. And again, I know I'm repeating myself, we're gonna get a little deeper into the head sculpt, but of course that just jumps right out, you know. I see so much more Michael J. Fox on this part 2. The jacket, of course, it's cooler on the futuristic version, but this is more iconic, and it's got more layers. Jackets, it's got like a t-shirt, and yeah, there's more layers to it. Here, the jeans, very similar. And the shoes make part 2 slightly taller. Here, shoes are not as cool, but still, part 1, I think it's the more iconic one, with that life preserver, even though the part 2 is cooler, and I do love that first sequence of part 2. Here's the back of the head, quite similar situation. Neither is blonde enough, but part 1 is a little bit better. But yeah, this is just more of an iconic look to me. more iconic. Part 1 is still the main one, even though at the end of part 1 we're all in doubt as to what the future looks like, and it's so exciting to finally go into the future. So yeah, that's why part 2 definitely has a special place in my heart, which is why I picked up this figure, substituting my part 1. And then now we're gonna see what happens here. But here are the profiles. You can see both. I see Michael J. Fox on both figures. And again, life preserver versus futuristic jacket. It's kind of a matter of preference, which movie you like better, which is more iconic to you. Then the shoes, of course, are cooler. Iconic and classic versus cool. Yeah, but if you guys been following my channel, I'm all about classic and nostalgic. So yes, I am going to give this to the part 1 for that reason. And speaking of that, again, here is my old part 1. He's looking at his watch, out of focus. There we go. Yeah, and he had the glasses. I miss those glasses. I feel like I almost want to pick up those glasses. But here we're taking a look at the Headsculpts. Looks pretty good. I see Michael J. Fox here, most definitely. And the paint application is improved, as well as the hair is lighter. Again, not light enough, but lighter, which is good. Yeah, look at that. That's definitely Michael J. Fox, especially for certain sides. From the front, not so much. I see here more of Michael J. Fox, of course. I mean, I'm not gonna deny it. This is the best head sculpt. This head sculpt of Marty is the best we've seen so far, and yeah, I'm sticking to it. There's no denying it. It does have the magnet, so you can switch out the hairpiece and put on the baseball hat. But yeah, this part 2 head sculpt to me is the absolute best. Not by far. I do like this new one, of course. Here I'm switching so you guys can see with a magnet. That looks weird, but it's because this is needed, and this can pass for Marty or his son. I know his son had more of a dorky look on his face. This is more serious, like the look that he had when actually in that scene in the cafe when he first substitutes his son and just stares at Griff, and he's like, the answer is no, type of thing. But here is yeah, my old Marty McFly part 1, and wanted to compare here. I just was never a big fan. I know in some ways it looks a little more like Michael J. Fox, but I just didn't like the expression. And when it comes to these two guys, definitely I see Michael J. Fox more on the part 2. So 1 point goes to the part 2. Then my second favorite would be that part 1 here. But here the messing around starts. Messing around time. This looks great. Look at this. Like I said, this is the best head sculpt. Second, I didn't finish my sentence before because the messing around has started here. But first would be that. Second favorite head sculpt, even though it's not looking very good here. This looks really bizarre to me. I don't know why. Why swap? Why the reverse just doesn't look good to me. The neck, I think it's the neck. If the neck were a little shorter, but yeah, I mean, you can peg it in and this is how it looks. But yeah, when it comes to favorite head sculpt, definitely not this. And definitely not this look. But the part 2 is my favorite. That recent part 1, I like it quite a bit. It's my number 2, and then of course the old part 1. And I like this head sculpt so much I thought I'd throw it on the dog. I saw some people on Facebook doing this. I thought, well, I gotta try that. You guys know me. I just like to mess around. What can I say? So yeah. Let's throw the hat on Einstein. He's looking all cool here. And he's riding the skateboard. Check that out. So, yeah. You know, this is how I have fun in these comparison videos especially. But yeah, again, I can't stress it enough that part 2 is a better head sculpt than this one, even though I do like this one. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but you know, just want to get my opinion out there. By far, yeah, look at this. I mean, yeah, that head sculpt. That's a reason pretty much is the main reason I got the part 2. But more iconic part 1 is something I need. So yeah, right, Einstein? So I don't usually pose much for my comparison videos, but I thought, why not? I never did a review on this guy, never really did much video footage on this. So he's holding his almanac. It's not the best. Yeah, I didn't put too much effort into it, but just so you can see here, the magnet will hold, and he's using the dynamic stand I never really used. And then we have the part 1 on his skateboard, and he's holding the newspaper from the future. Just kind of combining things around here. And he's holding his camera, of course. Actually, this is how I have him on the shelf now, holding his camera and hanging on to his skateboard. The backpack, I'm gonna have it. And I made a copy of that almanac because I need at least that almanac accessory, and that turned out really good. I'm really happy with that. I stuffed it in the backpack. And yeah, that's basically going to conclude this with Einstein looking all cool. And yeah, for me, this most recent part 1 is the better of the two. Even though the head sculpt is not as good, it's more nostalgic. It screams more Back to the Future to me. If you're just gonna have one Marty McFly figure, I like to just stick to one figure per character. This is it, the part 1. So the part 2 is probably going to go, since I made that copy of the almanac, and that's my favorite accessory of part 2, and that represents part 2 to me. So I'm really happy I went to that event, picked up this figure, did all that Back to the Future coverage. Make sure you check it out if you haven't already, that Toy Sapiens event. So that's gonna wrap it up. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe, like, and comment. Enjoy the path of collecting, and I'll catch you guys next time.